Nathan Bennett, a powerful millionaire single dad hardened by loss, believed he'd closed his heart forever, until Olivia Carter, a gentle nanny with secrets of her own, stepped into his world. Through quiet strength, she broke down walls he never thought could crumble, teaching Nathan and his disabled son, Ethan, the true meaning of love, sacrifice, and second chances. But just as happiness seemed within reach, devastating misunderstandings threatened to tear them apart forever. Can love truly conquer past wounds? Where are you watching from? Comment below. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more powerful, emotional stories you won't want to miss. Nathan Bennett's sprawling estate sat atop a gently sloping hill, overlooking the mist-covered valley below. Massive windows dominated the mansion's facade, reflecting the gray clouds like polished steel. Despite its imposing grandeur, the house felt empty, a hollow shell absent of warmth. Inside, the quiet was nearly suffocating, a constant reminder of the joy that once filled these halls but had since faded into distant memory. Nathan sat alone in his study, his sharp gray eyes locked on the polished oak desk before him. The tapping of his fingers echoed softly, betraying a rare moment of anxiety beneath his typically controlled demeanor. Spread out in front of him were several pristine resumes, each boasting impeccable qualifications. Yet none had passed Ethan's rigorous test. Ethan, his 8-year-old son, confined to a wheelchair after the tragic car accident 2 years prior, had developed a stubborn refusal toward anyone Nathan hired to care for him. Each attempt had ended in bitter rejection, and Nathan was running out of options. A soft knock on the door pulled Nathan from his thoughts, and Sophie Martinez, his assistant, stepped in quietly. Her eyes softened sympathetically as she noted his weary expression. "Nathan," she began gently, "Ms. Olivia Carter has arrived for her interview." Nathan sighed softly, reluctantly motioning for her to let the candidate aid. Olivia Carter stepped inside, her presence immediately noticeable. Younger than previous applicants, Olivia had a gentle confidence about her. Dressed simply in a cream-colored blouse and tailored black pants, her honey-brown hair neatly tied into a loose ponytail, Olivia seemed at ease in the grand room, neither intimidated nor overly impressed by Nathan's wealth, a refreshing change that piqued his curiosity. "Ms. Carter," Nathan greeted her coolly, gesturing to the chair across from him. "Mr. Bennett," she replied warmly, meeting his gaze without flinching as she took her seat. Nathan studied her carefully, searching for any signs of uncertainty or unease. Finding none, he decided to proceed directly. "Do you have experience caring for children with disabilities?" Without hesitation, Olivia nodded. "Yes." Nathan's eyebrow lifted slightly.
"Care to elaborate?"
Olivia took a breath, carefully choosing her words. "I've worked extensively with children who faced significant physical challenges. I understand both the patience required and the emotional impact it has, not just on the child but on the entire family." Her answer, though thoughtful, felt generic. Nathan pressed further. "Have you formally studied physical therapy?" Her eyes flickered, a shadow crossing her expression briefly. "I did," she admitted, softly, "but I never completed my degree." "Why?" Nathan demanded, his voice edged with suspicion. Olivia's expression tightened briefly, her eyes glistening for just a heartbeat before regaining her composure. "Personal reasons." Nathan disliked vague answers, yet before he could question her further, Sophie reappeared in the doorway, concern etched across her face. "Nathan, Ethan refuses to come downstairs. He insists he's done meeting new caregivers." Nathan ran a frustrated hand through his hair, a familiar weariness pressing down on him. Olivia suddenly stood, drawing both Nathan and Sophie's attention. If you don't mind, Mr. Bennett, I'd like to introduce myself to Ethan personally. Nathan hesitated, skeptical. He won't speak with you. I don't expect him to, she replied gently, offering a reassuring smile. I just want him to see, here. Intrigued and somewhat surprised, Nathan nodded. Sophie led Olivia down the long, silent hallway to Ethan's room, Nathan following quietly behind, his interest piqued. Ethan's bedroom door stood ajar, revealing the boy curled on his bed, small shoulders hunched in a defensive posture. Sophie softly announced Olivia's presence, and Ethan responded immediately with a curt, "Go away." Unfazed, Olivia stepped forward, pausing respectfully a few feet from his bed. She knelt down carefully, making herself smaller, less threatening. "Hi, Ethan," she said softly, gently. "I'm Olivia." Ethan didn't respond, but Olivia noticed the books scattered on the floor, adventure tales she recognized. Smiling faintly, she picked up one battered copy. "Oh, Treasure Island," she murmured affectionately, turning the worn pages. "My little brother and I loved reading this together." Ethan's posture shifted slightly, intrigued despite himself, though he didn't turn around. Olivia gently placed the book back. "I know it's tiring, having new people come and go," she whispered sincerely. "You must feel like nobody stays." For a moment, silence filled the room. Then Ethan's small voice broke through, barely audible. "They always leave." Olivia's heart clenched painfully at his vulnerability. Slowly, carefully, she moved closer, stopping just at the edge of his bed. "I'm not here to leave, Ethan," she promised softly, her voice unwavering. "I'm here because I believe you're special." A tense silence stretched between them. Then, hesitantly, Ethan's tiny hand reached out, brushing gently against Olivia's wrist. Nathan, standing unnoticed at the door, watched stunned, his breath catching in his throat. It was the first voluntary contact Ethan had made with anyone in over 2 years. Olivia didn't rush. She simply smiled softly, warmly, allowing Ethan control. "See?" she whispered, voice filled with gentle assurance. "We're already friends." At that moment, Nathan realized Olivia Carter was different. For the first time in years, his perfectly structured world felt a little less cold, a little less empty. The first few days with Olivia and the Bennett household passed quietly, unfolding like careful brushstrokes on a canvas slowly revealing its colors. Ethan remained wary, cautiously observing Olivia from beneath lowered lashes whenever she entered the room. He spoke little, his responses limited to hesitant nods or quiet murmurs, still uncertain of her intentions. Yet, Olivia never forced the issue, her presence consistently calm and gentle. She appeared each morning at exactly the same time, her soft smile unwavering, as though determined to prove she would be a steady constant in Ethan's unsettled world. Observing her quietly through the mansion's security cameras, Nathan began noticing subtle differences in Olivia's approach. Unlike previous caregivers, she intuitively knew when to hold back and when to encourage. Rather than pressing Ethan into activities, she quietly invited him, her voice always warm, never insistent. Gradually, Nathan found himself watching the footage more often, compelled by the gentle interactions between Olivia and Ethan. A part of him remained guarded, wary of false hope. Yet another part was inexplicably drawn to the genuine warmth radiating from the screen. Olivia, meanwhile, observed Ethan closely, noting small but significant details. The slight frown that crossed his brow whenever someone mentioned physical therapy, the way his hands tightened into fists when his wheelchair was moved. She recognized this quiet grief, this subtle resistance. She had seen it before, long ago, in her brother Lucas. Determined to reach Ethan without triggering his fears, she introduced gentle, playful routines disguised as simple games. One morning, she entered his room carrying a brightly colored exercise ball, casually rolling it around the carpet near his bed. "I used to play this game with my little brother," Olivia remarked softly, not directly addressing Ethan but speaking thoughtfully into the quiet room. He thought it was silly at first, but eventually he got pretty good. Ethan, curled protectively on his bed, didn't respond. Olivia smiled faintly, placing the ball carefully a short distance away from him. "If you ever feel like playing, just roll it back to me," she said gently, before quietly leaving the room. For 3 days, the ball remained untouched. But on the fourth morning, Olivia found it had shifted slightly, resting a few inches from its original position. A small smile touched her lips. Ethan had tried a tentative step toward trust. Encouraged by this quiet progress, Olivia began introducing gentle stretching exercises, playfully referring to them as superhero training or secret ninja moves. She turned necessary therapies into stories and adventures, quietly challenging Ethan without making him aware of the effort. At first, Ethan hesitated, uncertain and wary of failing, but Olivia never pushed too far. She simply invited, waited, and encouraged with infinite patience. Nathan found himself increasingly fascinated by Olivia's interactions with his son. In his office late at night, he found himself replaying security footage repeatedly, captivated by the small, tender moments Olivia coaxed from Ethan. He observed closely as she guided Ethan's movements, her expertise becoming increasingly obvious. He noted the exact pressure she applied to relieve tension, the precise manner she employed to ease Ethan into stretches that had previously seemed impossible. Her every action reflected careful training, knowledge that seemed incongruous with her vague statements about her education. Something didn't add up, and Nathan, ever the meticulous businessman, found himself unsettled by unanswered questions. Then, one afternoon, an unexpected sound drifted through the open door of Ethan's room. A soft, hesitant giggle. Nathan froze, heart quickening, hardly daring to breathe as he moved silently toward the doorway. Inside, Olivia was dramatically stacking brightly colored blocks, pretending exaggerated frustration each time they toppled. Ethan watched her, eyes sparkling with amusement, lips curved into a smile that Nathan hadn't seen in years. Olivia placed her hands theatrically on her forehead, sighing dramatically. "I'm convinced." Ethan giggled again, a gentle, genuine sound that filled the quiet room. Olivia feigned exaggerated shock, eyes wide. "Did you just laugh? The world must hear about this." Ethan laughed once more, his small hands quickly covering his mouth as though startled by the unfamiliar sound. Nathan stood frozen in place, heart hammering painfully against his ribs. How long had it been since Ethan laughed like that? The sound echoed warmly through Nathan's heart, breaking down barriers he'd carefully erected. It was at that moment Nathan truly saw Olivia, not as another caregiver, not as an employee, but as someone extraordinary, someone who had effortlessly unlocked a door that no one else could. He stepped back into the shadows of the hallway, overwhelmed by emotions he hadn't anticipated. For the first time in years, Nathan Bennett felt something stir within him, something that felt suspiciously like hope. Nathan Bennett was a man who valued clarity, control, and truth. It unsettled him deeply when pieces of a puzzle failed to fit neatly together. Olivia Carter was becoming that very puzzle, complex and intriguing yet frustratingly incomplete. Her proficiency with Ethan wasn't mere kindness or natural intuition. Nathan had seen enough medical specialists and therapists to recognize genuine skill when he saw it. Olivia understood how to guide Ethan's weakened muscles into therapeutic stretches without causing pain. She had a precise touch that spoke volumes of formal training. Training she inexplicably chose not to acknowledge. Unable to let the mystery linger, Nathan sat late one evening in his dimly lit study, documents spread out before him. The information he'd quietly requested had finally arrived. With meticulous focus, He combed through Olivia's records, feeling a strange tightness settle in his chest as the truth gradually emerged. Olivia had indeed pursued physical therapy, excelling at a prestigious university, impressing her professors with remarkable talent and dedication. Yet her academic record abruptly halted, leaving behind only unanswered questions. Nathan's fingers tapped impatiently on the desk. What would prompt someone so gifted to abandon their dreams and vanish into obscurity? The following morning, Nathan found Olivia in the sunlit garden, gently guiding Ethan through slow, deliberate movements on the soft grass. Ethan laughed softly, as Olivia playfully cheered him on. Nathan hesitated, a part of him unwilling to disturb the warm tableau before him, but the need for answers was stronger. Clearing his throat, he stepped forward. "Mrs. Carter, may I have a word?" Olivia's smile faltered briefly as she looked up, sensing the formality in his voice. Carefully settling Ethan onto a comfortable cushion nearby, she rose, brushing a loose strand of honey-brown hair behind her ear. "Of course," she replied quietly. Nathan led her toward the shaded patio, away from Ethan's curious ears. His gaze locked onto hers, firm but not unkind. "I reviewed your background last night. Why didn't you tell me you'd studied physical therapy?" Olivia's posture stiffened visibly, eyes widening slightly at the unexpected revelation. "You looked into my past." Her voice was soft, tinged with disbelief rather than anger. "I did," Nathan admitted evenly, watching her reaction closely. "You were at the top of your class. Your professors predicted you'd revolutionize pediatric therapy, yet you dropped everything without explanation. Why?" Olivia took a deep breath, fingers curling into fists at her sides as she wrestled with painful memories. Nathan saw the turmoil flicker across her features, recognizing it as something far deeper than mere embarrassment or shame. "Personal reasons," she whispered again, her voice trembling slightly. Nathan stepped closer, his tone softer, more compassionate. "Please, Olivia, tell me the truth." She hesitated, visibly gathering strength from somewhere deep within. Finally, Olivia met his gaze, eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "My little brother, Lucas," she began quietly, her voice barely above a whisper, "was born with a severe neuromuscular disorder. He couldn't walk, couldn't run. He spent his whole life trapped in a wheelchair. Yet he was always smiling, always hopeful. I went into physical therapy to help him, to find a way to make his life better. Better." Nathan remained silent, sensing the story's tragic path before she even spoke it aloud. His heart clenched painfully as Olivia's voice grew thicker with emotion. "I believed if I studied hard enough, if I learned enough, I could save him," she continued softly. "But one day, Lucas got sick, a simple infection that spiraled out of control. Within weeks, he was gone." Her voice cracked slightly, a single tear slipping down her cheek, despite her fierce attempt to hold it back. Nathan felt a sharp pang in his chest, recognizing in Olivia's grief something he himself had once felt: utter helplessness in the face of loss. "I couldn't go back to school after that," Olivia admitted quietly, eyes glistening with raw pain. "Every class, every lecture was a constant reminder that all my efforts hadn't been enough. The one person I wanted to help most, I'd failed." Nathan's breath caught painfully. Olivia's quiet confession resonated deeply within him, awakening an ache he'd long buried beneath layers of emotional armor. Slowly, Olivia lifted her gaze again, vulnerability etched clearly across her face. "When I saw Ethan's photo and heard about his situation, something stirred inside me. For the first time in years, I thought maybe, just maybe, I could make a difference again. That I could make a difference again. That I could somehow help him heal, even if I couldn't do it for Lucas." Nathan stared at her, heart pounding fiercely in his chest. Olivia wasn't here out of necessity or financial desperation. She was here out of pure, unwavering devotion. a genuine desire to heal, not only Ethan but herself, in that fragile, honest moment beneath the sunlight. Dappled patio. Nathan Bennett felt the barriers he'd carefully constructed around himself, slowly beginning to crumble. The truth of Olivia's past lingered heavily in Nathan's thoughts, long after their conversation had ended, reshaping the way he saw her entirely. Olivia was no longer just another nanny hired to assist his son. She had become someone whose presence carried profound meaning, whose strength emerged quietly from deep pain. Nathan found himself increasingly unsettled, not by Olivia herself, but by the unexpected intensity of his own emotional response. He'd spent years building walls, insulating himself from feelings that threatened the careful order he maintained. Yet Olivia Carter had managed to slip effortlessly past those defenses, leaving him exposed and uncertain for the first time in memory. Days turned into weeks, and Ethan blossomed under Olivia's gentle guidance. Each day seemed to bring new surprises, small victories, and milestones Nathan hadn't dared to imagine. Ethan's laughter began echoing regularly through the halls of the Bennett mansion, a sound once so rare that Nathan often paused in disbelief to savor it. Olivia's impact was undeniable, her influence extending beyond Ethan's physical improvements to something deeper, something emotional and profound. Nathan watched carefully, captivated as Olivia continued to blend playful stories with Ethan's physical exercises. Each activity, whether stacking colorful blocks or carefully balancing on soft foam mats, was meticulously crafted to strengthen Ethan's muscles and confidence. She made therapy feel effortless, cleverly masking challenges behind imaginative games and secret missions. Ethan eagerly anticipated her daily visits, his excitement palpable whenever she appeared in his doorway, always offering a warm, unwavering smile. Slowly, subtly, Olivia also began challenging Nathan himself. Her presence disrupted the rigid boundaries he'd drawn around his life. One afternoon, as Nathan stood near the door preparing to leave for an important meeting, Olivia stopped him with a gentle yet firm voice. "Nathan, may I ask you something?" Her tone held a note of respectful insistence he couldn't ignore. "Yes," he replied, his attention reluctantly pulled from his watch. "When was the last time you actually played with Ethan? And I don't mean just sitting quietly in the same room. I mean genuinely played with your son." Her eyes, kind yet unwavering, searched his face for honesty. Nathan hesitated, slightly startled by her directness. "My schedule." "Your son doesn't need more of your money or your carefully arranged appointments," Olivia interrupted gently, stepping closer. "He needs you. Even 15 minutes of your undivided attention would mean everything to him." Nathan frowned, feeling a wave of defensiveness rising within him. No employee had ever dared speak to him like this. Yet, beneath his initial irritation, something else stirred, a quiet acknowledgement of truth. Ethan deserved more than the occasional brief exchange of words, more than superficial gestures masking genuine intimacy. He deserved a father present and engaged. 15 minutes, Olivia repeated softly, eyes pleading earnestly. Nathan exhaled deeply, glancing once more at his watch, before finally nodding. "All right. 15 minutes. He followed Olivia into the spacious living room, where Ethan sat excitedly, bright eyes looking up at his father expectantly. Olivia carefully arranged colorful bowling pins in front of the boy, her smile playful as she encouraged him. "Show your dad how good you've gotten at this, Ethan." Nathan lowered himself awkwardly onto the plush carpet, unaccustomed to the informal setting. Ethan hesitated, gripping the soft foam ball nervously. "You've got this, buddy," Nathan encouraged quietly, surprised by the unfamiliar warmth in his voice. Ethan drew a shaky breath and rolled the ball forward. It knocked down 2 pins, earning an exuberant cheer from Olivia. 2 points for Ethan. "You're amazing." The boy's face lit up, pride radiating from his smile. Nathan felt something shift inside him, a quiet, powerful realization that he had missed these moments entirely, absorbed instead by deadlines and distant goals. The initial 15 minutes stretched effortlessly into 30, then 45. Nathan didn't notice his phone buzzing insistently, his carefully structured day slipping away unnoticed. He was entirely captivated by Ethan's laughter, by the quiet joy radiating from Olivia's encouraging words. That evening, as Olivia tidied away scattered toys, Nathan stood quietly by the doorway, silently observing her gentle movements. She looked up suddenly, catching his gaze. Her cheeks colored slightly in surprise. "Is something wrong, Nathan?" His jaw tightened momentarily, uncertain of how to express the complex emotions swirling within him. "No," he finally murmured quietly, turning away before she could read the confusion in his expression. "Good night, Olivia." As Nathan retreated down the hallway, Olivia smiled softly, knowingly, watching him disappear into the shadows. She recognized the subtle changes unfolding within him, the quiet cracks in his carefully built walls. Nathan Bennett was changing, and Olivia knew it even if he hadn't yet admitted it to himself. Late into the quiet hours of the night, Nathan found himself repeatedly drawn to the glow of the security monitors. What had begun merely as a cautious habit to ensure Ethan's safety had slowly transformed into something else. Something he wasn't quite prepared to admit even to himself. As he clicked through camera views of the silent house, his eyes always stopped at Ethan's room, lingering there longer than necessary, searching for the familiar sight of Olivia's gentle presence by Ethan's side. Tonight, his heart quickened at the tender scene unfolding before him. In the soft golden lamplight, Olivia knelt quietly in front of Ethan, her voice barely audible through the monitor speaker. Nathan leaned in closer, adjusting the volume slightly, captivated by her quiet, soothing words. "Ethan, let's try it just one more time, okay? I believe in you." Ethan's small face was determined, his eyes shining with fragile hope. He nodded slowly, trusting Olivia implicitly. She carefully held his hands, steadying his balance as he took a deep breath, gathering his courage. Nathan watched, heart pounding painfully, as his son summoned every ounce of his strength, pushing himself upward with trembling legs. And then, astonishingly, Ethan stood. A brief, triumphant moment, his small hands gripping Olivia tightly, eyes wide with disbelief. "I did it," Ethan gasped, pride radiating from every part of him. Olivia smiled warmly, steadying him gently. "You did. I'm so proud of you." Nathan felt his breath catch in his throat, pride swelling in his chest, mixed with another emotion he couldn't immediately identify. He watched as Ethan collapsed gently back into Olivia's embrace, exhaustion and joy blending seamlessly on his small face. Yet, as Nathan continued watching, his heart tightened further. Olivia's expression had shifted subtly. Her reassuring smile faltered, eyes suddenly shimmering with tears. She struggled desperately to hold back. Unaware of her quiet turmoil, Ethan nestled against Olivia's shoulder, exhausted but content. Her voice dropped lower, nearly inaudible as she whispered shakily, "You did it, Ethan. You're going to walk again. My little brother never got the chance. But you, sweetheart, you'll walk." Nathan's pulse quickened painfully as her whispered words reached him clearly through the monitor. Olivia's shoulders shook slightly, her silent tears tracing delicate paths down her cheeks as she gently cradled Ethan. Nathan felt a pang deep within his chest, suddenly understanding fully what Ethan's progress truly meant to Olivia. This was no mere job for her. Ethan was not simply a child she'd been hired to help. He represented redemption, hope, a second chance at healing wounds she'd silently carried for years. The realization hit Nathan with unexpected force. Olivia wasn't just devoted to Ethan's recovery. She was fighting to heal herself. She poured her heart, her expertise, and every ounce of her strength into Ethan's progress, driven by a deeply personal mission Nathan had only partially understood until now. But another question lingered, unsettling and persistent, in the back of Nathan's mind. Was Olivia's devotion solely because of Ethan, or had something shifted between them too? Nathan exhaled slowly, running his fingers roughly through his hair, disturbed by the powerful feeling suddenly coursing through him. He was losing control. Seemed he had always carefully guarded against. For years, he'd protected himself behind a facade of logic and order, convinced that emotions were liabilities, distractions that only brought pain. Yet tonight, witnessing Olivia's raw vulnerability, something stirred within him, something undeniably real and deeply unsettling. Nathan pushed away from his desk abruptly, pacing restlessly across the study, trying to quell the unfamiliar ache settling into his chest. He hadn't anticipated this. Hadn't imagined someone could breach his defenses so effortlessly. Olivia had awakened feelings he'd carefully buried, emotions he'd convinced himself were unnecessary and dangerous. But now, faced with undeniable evidence of her sincerity and the depth of her commitment, Nathan found himself overwhelmed. Turning back toward the monitors, Nathan watched Olivia gently tuck Ethan into bed, carefully brushing hair from his peaceful face. He saw the tenderness in her touch, the quiet, selfless love evident in every gesture. It wasn't just Ethan she had changed. It was Nathan himself. He stood alone in the dimly lit study, finally accepting the undeniable truth he'd fought for weeks. Olivia Carter had become far more important than he'd ever allowed himself to believe. For the first time in many years, Nathan Bennett felt utterly, completely vulnerable. And strangely, it no longer frightened him. Instead, he felt a powerful yearning to comfort Olivia, to protect her from the quiet pain she carried. She wasn't just transforming Ethan's life. She had begun to change his. And as Nathan stood silently in the soft glow of the monitor's flickering screen, he finally admitted the unsettling yet undeniable truth. He was falling deeply and irrevocably in love with Olivia Carter. Olivia had always known her time with Ethan, and Nathan was temporary, a beautiful interlude destined to fade. She had arrived at the Bennett mansion with the clear purpose of helping Ethan heal, yet somewhere along the way, she'd allowed herself to believe in something more permanent. She had convinced herself that she belonged, that perhaps Nathan and Ethan truly needed her beyond as professional duty. It was foolish, she realized now, to let her heart slip beyond the boundaries she'd set so carefully. It began one evening when Olivia stepped quietly into the long hallway, intending to prepare Ethan's bedtime routine. She paused near Nathan's slightly open study door, the low murmur of his voice drifting through the gap. Without intending to listen, she found herself frozen, captured by the intensity in his tone. "Yes, Dr. Pierce," Nathan said firmly, the authority in his voice unmistakable. "I appreciate your willingness to expedite Ethan's full therapy plan. I want the absolute best professionals involved. I don't wish to delay any longer." Olivia's breath caught painfully in her chest, her heartbeat thundering loudly in her ears. Her fingers trembled slightly as she pressed them to her lips, feeling a familiar dread rise sharply within her. A full therapy plan, she thought bitterly, her heart sinking deeper. A professional therapist, someone qualified, someone truly suitable for Ethan's care. It made perfect sense. Ethan had improved significantly, enough that Nathan no longer needed her amateur guidance. Olivia had fulfilled her role, she realized numbly. Now, she was being replaced by someone more qualified, someone who could take Ethan further along his journey to recovery. She hurried silently down the hall to her room, closing the door behind her as tears blurred her vision. She sat heavily on the edge of the bed, trying to steady the painful tightness in her chest. She felt foolish for having allowed herself to dream, for daring to imagine a place for herself within their lives. Ethan deserved the best, and if Nathan believed someone else could help him more effectively, she had no right to argue. By morning, Olivia had made up her mind. She dressed carefully, keeping her expression composed as she quietly knocked on Nathan's office door. At his terse acknowledgement, she stepped inside, her resignation letter gripped tightly in her trembling hand. Nathan glanced up briefly from his laptop, surprise registering momentarily at her tense posture. "Olivia, is something wrong?" She drew a shaky breath, forcing herself to speak clearly. His fingers froze mid-keystroke, eyes narrowing in confusion. "What? A lie? You no longer need me here," she replied softly, desperately attempting to keep her voice steady. "You're hiring a professional therapist. It's the right choice for Ethan." Nathan stood quickly, his expression darkening with frustration. "Olivia, the therapist isn't replacing you. He's intended as additional support. To assist you, not remove you." Her heart twisted painfully at his words, confusion battling with lingering insecurity. She shook her head slowly. "Regardless, Nathan, I think it's best that I leave. Ethan deserves the absolute best care. It's clear you're seeking a more qualified individual." Nathan's eyes flashed with quiet intensity, his jaw tightening as though struggling internally. Olivia waited breathlessly, silently begging him to contradict her, to ask her to stay. But Nathan's hesitation stretched painfully between them, silence becoming a quiet confirmation of her fears. "If that's your decision," he finally spoke softly, his voice strained, unreadable, "I won't force you to stay." Olivia felt a fresh wave of hurt crash over her, nodding quickly to hide the tears she couldn't contain. Turning swiftly from him, she left the office, her heart splintering painfully with each step she took away. Later, when Olivia told Ethan she was leaving, his reaction shattered what remained of her composure. Tears filled his wide eyes as he reached desperately for her, tiny hands gripping her sleeves, his voice breaking into quiet sobs. "Please don't go, Olivia. Please." She knelt down, pulling him gently into her arms, fighting desperately against her own tears. "Ethan, sweetheart, you'll be okay. You're strong, you're brave, and you're getting better every day." Ethan shook his head fiercely, burying his face into her shoulder. "Dad doesn't need you anymore, does he? Is that why you're leaving? Please don't leave me. You're my family." Her heart fractured completely at his words. She longed desperately to reassure him, to promise she'd never leave, but she couldn't. She could no longer pretend her place here was permanent. From the doorway, Nathan watched silently, his fists clenched tightly at his sides, feeling his heart twist painfully at the sight of Ethan's distress and Olivia's tears. He had allowed fear and pride to prevent him from confessing how deeply he needed her, not just as Ethan's caregiver, but as someone essential to his own happiness. As Olivia cradled Ethan, quietly comforting him, even as her own heart broke, Nathan knew he had made a terrible mistake. Olivia wasn't just a caregiver. She was family. If he let her leave now, he knew he would regret it forever. Olivia stood in her modest apartment, surrounded by cardboard boxes and half-packed suitcases, feeling the unbearable weight of silence press in around her. Gone were the gentle echoes of Ethan's laughter floating down hallways, the warmth of small hands slipping trustingly into hers, and the quiet thrill that had filled her chest whenever Nathan had walked into the room. She closed her eyes, breathing shakily as her heart clenched at the emptiness now stretching before her. She'd convinced herself leaving was the right thing. The necessary thing, but necessary thing. But the ache that filled her chest told her otherwise. A sudden, sharp knock startled her from her thoughts. Olivia hesitated, uncertainty flickering through her as she crossed to the door. When she opened it, the breath left her lungs in a single, surprised exhale. Nathan stood there, framed by the soft evening glow, Ethan nestled protectively in his arms. For a moment, Olivia could only stare, frozen in stunned silence. Nathan, always meticulously composed, appeared raw, vulnerable, and entirely unlike himself. His normally calm eyes now brimmed with urgency, anxiety, and an emotion Olivia barely dared to believe was real. "We need to talk," Nathan began softly, his voice rough with suppressed feeling. Olivia swallowed hard, gripping the edge of the door for support. "Nathan, please." "No," he interrupted firmly, stepping closer. "I should have stopped you the moment you handed me your resignation. I should have told you exactly what you meant, not just to Ethan, but to me." His words echoed softly around them, a quiet confession that stole her breath away. Olivia felt her heartbeat quicken painfully, her gaze locked helplessly on his face, searching desperately for any sign of insincerity. She saw none, only unguarded vulnerability and genuine regret. "Nathan, I can't do this again," she whispered painfully, tears glistening in her eyes. "I can't lose someone She paused abruptly, catching herself before the truth she'd guarded so carefully slipped out. Nathan stepped even closer, his expression softening deeply. "You won't lose me, Olivia. I promise you that." Her breath hitched sharply, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. Nathan shifted Ethan gently in his arms and reached carefully into his coat pocket, pulling out a small folder. He handed it to Olivia wordlessly, eyes fixed intently on her face. Confused, Olivia opened the folder, her breath catching painfully as she stared at the paper inside. Her knees buckled slightly, heart racing wildly as disbelief washed over her. It was her diploma, her completed bachelor's degree in physical therapy, the dream she'd abandoned long ago now realized and official. "How?" Olivia gasped softly, voice trembling with emotion. "Nathan." Nathan stepped closer, voice gentle, earnest. "You had already finished most of your coursework before you left. There were only a few credits missing, and I ensured they were accounted for. I couldn't stand by and watch you give up something so important again. Not after everything you've done for Ethan." Olivia's vision blurred with fresh tears, gratitude and disbelief overwhelming her entirely. "Why would you do this for me?" she whispered brokenly, clutching the precious document tightly. Nathan's eyes darkened, his voice dropping to a whisper filled with heartfelt sincerity. "Because you sacrificed everything for your brother, and then you gave up your dreams again for my son. I can't let you continue to sacrifice yourself. You deserve more, Olivia. You deserve happiness." Overcome, Olivia sank slowly to her knees, trembling under the weight of his kindness and the force of emotions she long denied herself. Ethan squirmed gently in Nathan's arms, reaching out to Olivia, his small voice hopeful yet uncertain. "Olivia, please come home. We miss you." Olivia reached out instinctively, pulling Ethan gently into her embrace, pressing her cheek softly against his hair. Nathan knelt beside them, quietly resting a reassuring hand on Olivia's shoulder, anchoring her firmly in the reality that he truly wanted her to stay. Not only for Ethan, but because of something deeper, something true. Nathan's voice shook slightly as he finally spoke again. "I spent years convincing myself that control and distance protected me, but all it did was isolate me from what truly matters. You showed me a life beyond just existing. You brought laughter back to Ethan. You brought laughter back to Ethan. You gave him hope. And somewhere along the way, Olivia, you gave me hope too. You taught me how to love again." Her heart swelled painfully with emotion, the warmth of his words dissolving every last trace of uncertainty. Olivia looked up into Nathan's eyes, seeing clearly the sincerity, the vulnerability, the truth he'd kept hidden until now. She reached out slowly, fingertips gently brushing his cheek, marveling at the way he leaned instinctively into her touch. "I can't promise perfection," Nathan whispered softly, his voice raw, honest. "But I promise you this. You will always be wanted. You will always be wanted. You will always belong. And I will spend every moment showing you how deeply you're loved." Olivia smiled tearfully, pulling Ethan closer, feeling the healing warmth of Nathan's gentle touch as he pulled them both into a tender, protective embrace. At last, she understood. She wasn't merely part of their story. She wasn't merely part of their story. She'd become their family. And in Nathan's arms, Olivia finally found where she truly belonged. Sunlight poured over the lush grounds of the Bennett estate, washing across the gardens in waves of gold, carrying with it a sense of renewal and hope. Ethan stood barefoot in the soft, warm grass, determination etched deeply into his young face. Olivia knelt beside him, gently holding his trembling hands, her heart pounding fiercely in anticipation. Nathan stood several feet away, frozen in quiet awe, scarcely daring to breathe as he watched his son prepare to take a step, something he'd once believed impossible. "You've got this, sweetheart," Olivia encouraged softly, her voice brimming with quiet confidence. "Just one small step." Ethan hesitated briefly, his expressive eyes flickering nervously toward Olivia's face for reassurance. She smiled warmly, squeezing his tiny fingers gently in hers. With a deep breath, Ethan bravely shifted his weight forward, small legs shaking from the effort. Slowly, carefully, he took one fragile, triumphant step, then another. For a heart-stopping moment, Nathan saw his son, who had spent years confined to a wheelchair, standing freely, supported only by his own courage and Olivia's gentle guidance. Nathan's breath caught painfully, eyes burning with unshed tears, as pride overwhelmed him. Ethan's laughter filled the garden, a joyous, victorious sound that rang through the quiet morning air. Olivia quickly caught Ethan as his strength faltered slightly, scooping him protectively into her arms. "You did it," she whispered happily against his hair, tears streaming freely down her cheeks. "Ethan, you really did it." Nathan moved swiftly toward them, dropping to his knees beside Olivia and Ethan, unable to hold back the powerful surge of emotions any longer. He wrapped both of them gently into a warm embrace, feeling Olivia's quiet sobs shake softly against his chest. Ethan giggled brightly between them, eyes shining with delight at his achievement. Nathan felt something deep within his heart shift profoundly, an undeniable truth, settling clearly into place. Pulling back slightly, Nathan gazed deeply into Olivia's tear-filled eyes, feeling an ache of tenderness unlike anything he'd ever experienced before. He gently brushed a strand of her hair behind her ear, voice trembling softly. "You've given Ethan more than I ever dreamed possible," Nathan whispered, heart raw with honesty. "And you've given me something I didn't know I needed. A second chance at happiness." Olivia's breath caught sharply, eyes widening with sudden understanding as Nathan reached carefully into his pocket. With Ethan watching in breathless wonder, Nathan pulled out a small velvet box, fingers trembling slightly as he opened it, revealing a delicate, sparkling diamond ring. Olivia's eyes filled once more with tears, her voice barely audible. "Nathan," he smiled gently, warmly, heart beating fiercely in his chest as he spoke softly. "I never thought I'd find someone who could heal Ethan, and me, in the ways you have. Olivia, you've brought laughter back into our lives, love back into our lives. You've made us whole. Will you marry me? Will you let us be the family I never imagined I could have?" Ethan clapped excitedly, his face radiant with joy. "Please say yes, Olivia." Olivia's heart soared, happiness surging through her like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. Her gaze moved tenderly between Ethan's eager smile and Nathan's hopeful eyes. She realized, standing there, surrounded by their love, that this was where she truly belonged. With a tearful, radiant smile, Olivia finally whispered, "Yes. Absolutely yes." Nathan's eyes shone with unguarded emotion as he gently slid the ring onto her trembling finger. Ethan laughed joyously, wrapping his small arms tightly around them both. Nathan cupped Olivia's face softly, leaning forward to press a tender, soul-stirring kiss against her lips. In that quiet, beautiful moment, beneath the sunlit sky, Olivia felt every painful moment of loss and loneliness wash away, replaced by the overwhelming warmth of Nathan's love and Ethan's trust. As Nathan slowly pulled away, he brushed his thumb affectionately across Olivia's damp cheek, smiling softly. Ethan tugged gently at their sleeves, giggling brightly, eyes sparkling with newfound happiness. "Does this mean Olivia gets to stay forever?" he asked eagerly. Nathan laughed warmly, pulling both of them gently into another embrace. "Forever, Ethan," he promised softly, glancing tenderly at Olivia. "We're never letting her go again." Olivia felt her heart swell powerfully within her chest, overwhelmed by a profound sense of peace and belonging. Here, in the embrace of the family she'd unexpectedly found, she finally felt whole again. Ethan, who had once faced a future filled with uncertainty, now stood tall, brave, and hopeful. Nathan, who had closed his heart after enduring loss, now opened it fully, unafraid to love again. As the three of them stood together beneath the golden sun, it was clear this moment wasn't just a joyful conclusion. It was a beautiful beginning. Olivia had arrived at the Bennett mansion seeking redemption and found something even greater. A family to call her own, a love strong enough to heal even the deepest wounds, and a future filled with endless promise. As the sun dipped behind the sprawling trees, casting a gentle glow over the Bennett estate, Olivia stood quietly in the garden, watching Ethan chase butterflies, his laughter echoing warmly in the fading light. Beside her, Nathan slipped his hand gently into hers, their fingers entwining naturally as though they had always belonged there. She glanced up at him, her heart catching slightly at the soft, tender look in his eyes, an expression once hidden behind careful barriers, now freely given. "Did you ever imagine this?" Nathan asked softly, a quiet wonder lacing his voice. "That one day, we'd stand here together, happy and whole?" Olivia shook her head gently, a soft smile touching her lips. "I never allowed myself to dream this far," she confessed quietly. "But now, I can't imagine anything else." Nathan brushed his thumb lightly across her knuckles, eyes lingering warmly on her face. "Neither can I." They watched quietly as Ethan paused, eyes bright with excitement, his legs strong and confident beneath him. He'd grown remarkably, transformed from the fragile child confined to a wheelchair into a spirited, energetic boy, exploring life's possibilities eagerly each day. Olivia's heart swelled painfully with pride, joy mingling quietly with gratitude. Ethan turned suddenly, waving enthusiastically to them, his smile radiant. "Olivia, Dad, look," Ethan shouted, excitement clear in his voice. "They're everywhere." Nathan chuckled softly, calling back warmly, "You're amazing, Ethan. Keep showing us what you find." Ethan grinned and hurried back toward the flowers, his laughter drifting gently through the air. Olivia watched him fondly, squeezing Nathan's hand gently. "He's come so far," she whispered softly. Nathan turned slowly to face her, his gaze deeply serious, voice quiet but firm. "Because of you, Olivia. You brought him back. You brought us both back." Emotion tightened Olivia's throat, eyes glistening slightly. "You were always there for him, Nathan. You just needed a reason to open your heart again." Nathan shook his head softly, gently reaching out to touch her cheek, fingertips warm and comforting. "I needed you. he admitted, quietly. You showed me it was safe to feel again, to trust again. You taught me that love isn't weakness, it's strength. His words echoed deeply within her heart, resonating with quiet truth. Olivia leaned gently into his touch, allowing herself to fully embrace the love and happiness surrounding her. Nathan's gaze deepened, his voice dropping softly, sincerely. I promise you, Olivia, every single day of our lives, I'll make sure you feel how deeply loved and needed you truly are. Her heart quickened warmly at his words, happiness swelling powerfully within her chest. She smiled softly, feeling tears of joy gather slowly at the corners of her eyes. And I promise you, Nathan, I'll always be here. Through every challenge, every joy. We're family now, and nothing will ever change that. As they stood together beneath the deepening twilight, Ethan returned, his small hand slipping comfortably into theirs. He looked up at them both, eyes wide with innocent curiosity and happiness. Do we get to stay like this forever? He asked hopefully. Nathan smiled softly, gently tousling Ethan's hair. Forever, Ethan. We're never going back to how things were. This is our family now. Olivia felt warmth flood her heart as Ethan leaned into her side, comforted and safe. For the first time since losing her brother, she felt truly at peace, fully healed by the love she'd discovered in this unexpected family. They had come together through pain, uncertainty, and struggle. But the bond forged between them was unbreakable, lasting far beyond the challenges they'd faced. Nathan turned slightly toward Olivia, expression softening with quiet vulnerability. You know, he murmured gently, when you first arrived, I didn't believe I deserved happiness like this. I thought love was something I'd lost forever. Olivia smiled softly, reaching out to touch his cheek tenderly. We found our way back, Nathan. Both of us. And now we have something stronger than either of us imagined. He leaned forward gently, pressing a tender kiss against her forehead, whispering warmly against her skin. Thank you, Olivia, for giving us back our lives, for loving Ethan, and for loving me. Olivia closed her eyes softly, feeling a powerful sense of belonging wash over her. I could never have imagined how much you both would mean to me, she whispered honestly. You both healed me too. In that quiet, beautiful moment, as the evening stars began to twinkle gently overhead, Olivia, Nathan, and Ethan stood closely together, three hearts bound inseparably by love, trust, and hope. They had weathered the storms of grief and uncertainty, emerging stronger, closer, and infinitely happier. The family they'd built was no longer defined by loss or loneliness, but by the warmth of laughter, the strength of trust, and the gentle promise of tomorrow. And as Olivia stood quietly nestled between Nathan and Ethan, feeling their love surround her, she knew without doubt that their story was not ending. It was only beginning. Nathan had always prided himself on his rigid control, meticulous schedules, and carefully planned routines. His life was structured down to the smallest detail, each day flowing seamlessly into the next, predictable and secure. But Olivia Carter had disrupted all of that. Her presence in his home had been like sunlight breaking through closed curtains, illuminating corners he had long kept hidden even from himself. Gradually, she had transformed his neatly arranged world, and Nathan found himself willingly embracing the chaos, captivated by the warmth she radiated so effortlessly. One afternoon, Nathan found himself finishing work unusually early. The house felt strangely quiet, prompting him to wander toward the gardens, drawn by a sudden need to see Ethan and Olivia. As he approached the wide, sunlit lawn, he froze at the sight that greeted him. Ethan stood, supported by Olivia's gentle hands, his legs wobbling slightly as he concentrated with fierce determination. Nathan's breath caught sharply in his chest, heart pounding with anticipation as Ethan steadied himself and, for a brief, miraculous instant, took a small step forward without support. Joy surged through Nathan with overwhelming force as Ethan stumbled gently into Olivia's waiting arms, both of them laughing joyously. Olivia hugged Ethan tightly, whispering proud encouragement into his ear, her face alight with happiness. Nathan remained rooted in place, overcome by a mixture of pride, gratitude, and something deeper, more powerful. It was love. Pure, undeniable, and absolute. Feeling his gaze, Olivia glanced up, eyes widening in surprise at his unexpected presence. Nathan felt a faint heat rise to his cheeks, momentarily flustered at being caught so openly emotional. Quickly composing himself, he approached them with quiet dignity, though his heart continued racing fiercely. "You came just in time," Olivia greeted warmly, still smiling brightly as Ethan clung happily to her side. "Did you see Ethan's amazing step?" Nathan nodded slowly, reaching out to gently squeeze Ethan's shoulder. "I did," he murmured softly, voice thick with emotion. "I'm so proud of you, Ethan." Ethan grinned widely, eyes sparkling with joy and pride. "Olivia said you'd be proud, Dad." Nathan's gaze flickered warmly toward Olivia, gratitude mingling quietly with deeper feelings. Olivia's right. Olivia's right. I've never been prouder." She met his eyes, her own gaze softening slightly at the sincerity she saw reflected back. They stood quietly for a moment, an unspoken tenderness passing between them, before Ethan interrupted playfully. "Can we all play a game now? Please." Nathan hesitated briefly, instinctively glancing at his watch before realizing, for once, he had nowhere urgent to be. Smiling faintly, he nodded, surprising even himself. "I suppose we can." Ethan cheered excitedly, tugging them eagerly toward the lawn, while Olivia laughed warmly, eyes bright with amusement. "Careful, Nathan. Ethan's become a master at winning." Nathan raised an eyebrow challengingly. "We'll see about that." For the first time in years, Nathan found himself fully immersed in playful moments, chasing butterflies and tossing colorful balls across the garden, laughter spilling freely into the afternoon air. Each minute that passed saw his carefully structured facade slipping further away, replaced by genuine, spontaneous joy. Olivia watched with quiet affection, heart swelling warmly at the sight of Nathan's transformation from distant CO to devoted father. As the sun dipped lower, Ethan, exhausted but happy, curled contentedly beside Olivia, eyes drifting closed. Nathan stood nearby, watching them both tenderly, feeling something powerful shift within him. Olivia had not only guided Ethan back to strength, she gently healed Nathan's own heart, quietly teaching him to embrace vulnerability and trust. Later, as evening shadows lengthened, Nathan caught Olivia alone, gently pulling her aside beneath the soft glow of the garden lanterns. She looked up curiously, cheeks flushed from the afternoon's excitement. Nathan drew a deep breath, his voice low and sincere. "Olivia, you've given us both something extraordinary. I never imagined Ethan could recover like this, or that I could feel so completely alive again." Her eyes softened, breath catching slightly at his openness. Nathan continued softly, reaching carefully to take her hand. "You've changed everything. My whole life, I believed strength meant never showing vulnerability. But you've shown me that true strength is having the courage to love and be loved." Olivia stepped closer instinctively, heart racing warmly at his heartfelt words. "Nathan," she whispered quietly, "you and Ethan changed me too. I came here trying to heal old wounds and instead found a family I never expected. A place where I truly belong." Nathan brushed his thumb tenderly across her knuckles, voice soft and sincere. I don't want this to end, Olivia. I don't want you to ever leave again. Stay with us. Stay with me." Her eyes shimmered softly, heart filling with quiet certainty. She gently touched his cheek, her gaze filled with love and promise. "Always, Nathan. I'm never leaving again." In that perfect, tender moment beneath the stars, Nathan realized his life had transformed completely. The barriers he'd built so carefully had finally crumbled, replaced by love, trust, and boundless joy. Olivia had entered his world quietly, gently teaching him that life's greatest strength lay not in control, but in the courage to open his heart. And with Olivia and Ethan beside him, Nathan finally felt truly alive, embracing a future filled with love, warmth, and endless possibility. Nathan had always considered emotions unpredictable, risky, forces that, if allowed, could dismantle even the most carefully crafted life. Yet now, as he stood silently in the quiet glow of his dimly lit office, staring at the security monitors late into the evening, he found himself willingly letting those same emotions overtake him. What began as routine checks to ensure Ethan's safety had evolved into an undeniable urge to catch glimpses of Olivia's quiet strength, her comforting presence, the gentleness with which she navigated their lives. Tonight, Nathan's heart quickened as the screen illuminated a poignant moment between Olivia and Ethan. He watched quietly, captivated, as Olivia knelt in front of Ethan's bed, gently holding the boy's small hands in hers. The soft lamplight bathed her face in a delicate glow, revealing raw vulnerability behind her calm exterior. "Let's try once more, Ethan," Olivia encouraged softly, her voice gentle but firm. "I believe in you." Ethan's small features tightened in determination, his trusting eyes fixed resolutely on Olivia's face. "Okay, Olivia, I'm ready." Nathan held his breath as Ethan slowly, painstakingly pushed himself upward, his fragile legs trembling beneath the weight. And then, for a breathtaking second, Ethan stood on his own, his face lighting up with pure, joyful triumph. "I did it!" Ethan exclaimed, his voice bursting with pride. Olivia laughed softly, her eyes shimmering brightly, though Nathan saw something else beneath her smile. Dip. Sorrow mingled quietly with her joy. "You did, sweetheart," Olivia whispered, gently steadying him as he collapsed safely back into her embrace, exhausted but radiant with pride. "You're amazing." Then, almost imperceptibly, her expression shifted, her careful smile faltering, eyes filling with unshed tears. Olivia gently touched Ethan's cheek, her voice trembling slightly. "You'll walk again, Ethan. My brother Lucas never got that chance." "You will." Nathan felt his chest tighten painfully, the raw emotion in Olivia's whispered words resonating deeply within him. Watching her shoulders quietly shake as she fought back tears, Nathan finally understood the full depth of Olivia's devotion, not merely as Ethan's caregiver, but as a woman driven by powerful grief and profound hope. Olivia had poured every ounce of herself into Ethan's recovery, determined to succeed where she'd once felt she failed. But Nathan's breath caught sharply as another realization swept over him. This wasn't just about Ethan anymore. Olivia was deeply invested in them both, and Nathan now recognized his own feelings had quietly transformed. He no longer saw Olivia merely as an employee. He saw her clearly, undeniably, as someone essential to his own happiness. Unable to deny these truths any longer, Nathan abruptly turned away from the monitors, pacing restlessly through his office. Emotions he'd always kept rigidly controlled surged powerfully within him. Vulnerability, longing, and something deeper, unmistakably, love. He'd tried for weeks to convince himself otherwise, afraid to acknowledge what was undeniable. Olivia had become someone he couldn't bear losing. He knew he couldn't continue silently watching from afar. He had to tell her, to risk everything by confessing the feelings he'd stubbornly denied. Gathering his resolve, Nathan walked purposefully through the quiet halls toward Olivia's room, heart pounding fiercely. He hesitated only briefly at her closed door before knocking softly, urgency overriding his instinctive hesitation. When Olivia opened the door, her eyes widened slightly in surprise, instantly sensing the intensity in Nathan's gaze. "Nathan, is something wrong?" she asked gently, voice edged with quiet concern. He stepped closer, voice low and sincere, abandoning all pretense. "Olivia, I can't pretend anymore. You've changed everything, Ethan, me, our entire world. You've shown us what it means to truly heal, to truly love." Her breath caught softly, eyes shimmering with hesitant hope. Nathan continued quietly, earnestly. "I've watched you sacrifice everything for us, pouring your heart into Ethan's recovery, shouldering your own pain silently. But you don't have to do it alone anymore. I want to share everything with you, Olivia. I want you in our lives permanently, not as Ethan's caregiver, but as someone I deeply love." Olivia's eyes filled quietly with tears, her voice barely a whisper. "Nathan, are you sure? I can't bear losing you. I can't bear losing you. I can't endure another heartbreak." He reached gently to cup her cheek, his gaze unwavering. "I promise you, Olivia, I'm never letting you go again. You've shown me the courage to love, to hope, and I can't imagine my life without you. Please, let me prove to you every single day that you're loved and wanted." She leaned instinctively into his touch, heart soaring as quiet tears traced delicate paths down her face. Nathan's thumb gently brushed them away, his voice warm and tender. "Stay with us. Stay with us. Stay with me. Let us build a life together, Olivia." Her eyes met his with a newfound certainty, a radiant smile slowly forming. "Always, Nathan. I'm yours completely." Nathan's heart swelled powerfully with joy as he leaned in slowly, capturing her lips in a soft, heartfelt kiss filled with promise. At that moment, every barrier dissolved completely, replaced by unwavering trust and boundless love. Olivia had quietly transformed their world, and Nathan knew, without doubt, this was only the beginning of something extraordinary. Sunlight streamed gently through the lush canopy of leaves, bathing the gardens of the Bennett estate in soft, golden warmth. Ethan stood firmly on the fresh-cut grass, eyes bright with anticipation, his small hand clasped tightly within Olivia's encouraging grip. Nathan stood a few feet away, his heart pounding fiercely as he watched his son prepare to walk once more. Olivia knelt beside Ethan, her voice soft but filled with confidence. "You're ready, sweetheart. Take your time. I'm right here." Ethan took a deep breath, determination flashing across his young face. With slow, careful movements, he shifted forward, legs trembling slightly from the effort, yet holding steady. Nathan held his breath, joy and pride swelling powerfully within him as Ethan bravely took a step. Then another, stronger this time. The boy looked up triumphantly, eyes wide with excitement and disbelief. "I did it!" Ethan gasped joyously, his laughter spilling freely into the warm air. "You certainly did," Olivia whispered warmly, tears sparkling in her eyes as she wrapped her arms lovingly around Ethan's small frame. Nathan moved quickly forward, dropping to his knees beside them, enveloping them both in a gentle, protective embrace. Nathan's eyes met Olivia's tender gaze, his heart tightening with emotion. Slowly, deliberately, he reached into his pocket, pulling out a small velvet box, his hands trembling slightly. Ethan gasped excitedly, eyes widening at the beautiful ring revealed within. "Olivia," Nathan began softly, voice thick with sincerity. "You've given Ethan hope, courage, and strength beyond measure. You've taught me to open my heart, to trust, and to love again. Something I once thought impossible. I can't imagine our lives without you. Will you marry me and let us be the family we're meant to be?" Ethan bounced excitedly, his voice filled with hopeful eagerness.
Say yeah, Olivia! Please!
Olivia's breath caught softly, heart swelling with overwhelming joy and gratitude. Yes, she whispered tearfully, her voice filled with quiet certainty. I would be honored. Nathan's smile brightened warmly, relief and happiness lighting his features as he carefully slipped the delicate ring onto her finger. Ethan cheered happily, wrapping his small arms tightly around both Nathan and Olivia. Nathan gently cupped Olivia's face, leaning in to capture her lips softly, tenderly, in a kiss that spoke of promises kept, dreams fulfilled and a future filled with boundless love. As evening fell, casting the gardens in hues of gentle pink and gold, they sat closely together, Ethan nestled comfortably between them. Nathan brushed his fingers affectionately across Olivia's hand, voice gentle and sincere. I never believed happiness like this was possible for me again. You've given me a second chance, Olivia. A chance to truly live, to truly love. Olivia leaned softly into Nathan's embrace, heart quietly overflowing. You've both given me a family, something I thought I'd lost forever. You healed me, Nathan. Both of you did. Ethan looked up brightly, eyes shimmering with innocent curiosity and happiness. Are we always going to be like this now? Happy together? Nathan smiled warmly, gently ruffling Ethan's hair. Always, Ethan. We're a family now, and nothing will ever change that. Olivia closed her eyes briefly, allowing herself to fully embrace the warmth and love surrounding her. Nathan gently kissed her forehead, whispering softly against her skin. Thank you for giving us this, Olivia, for showing us the meaning of true love, sacrifice, and courage. She opened her eyes slowly, gazing deeply into his. I came here hoping to heal Ethan, but I found something even more profound, a love strong enough to heal all of us. Nathan squeezed her hand gently, his voice filled with quiet conviction. This isn't just an ending, Olivia. It's a new beginning for all of us. I promise to spend every day proving how deeply loved you are. She smiled softly, feeling the truth of his words deep within her heart. Ethan curled closer, eyes growing heavy with contentment, his breathing slowing peacefully as sleep gently overtook him. Nathan and Olivia shared a tender glance, quiet smiles illuminating their faces as they watched Ethan rest safely between them. In that quiet, perfect moment, beneath the gathering stars, Olivia realized with profound clarity that their journey had led them exactly where they were meant to be, together, whole, and deeply loved. They had each faced unimaginable loss and heartache, yet through compassion, understanding, and unwavering determination, they had found a love powerful enough to overcome every obstacle. As night settled softly around them, Nathan leaned in once more, pressing a gentle kiss to Olivia's lips, whispering tenderly, "Forever." Olivia's heart soared warmly, knowing without doubt that their lives had become beautifully intertwined, bound together by the unbreakable threads of love and trust. They were no longer defined by their past struggles, but united by the hope and promise of a future filled with endless possibilities. Nathan, Olivia, and Ethan had become a family in every sense, creating a home filled with warmth, laughter, and a love strong enough to last a lifetime. This story teaches us something incredibly powerful, that love is not just about romance or attraction, but about sacrifice, patience, resilience, and compassion. Nathan, Olivia, and Ethan's journey reveals that even the deepest wounds can heal when met with understanding and genuine care. It shows us that sometimes the people who enter our lives unexpectedly are the ones who truly see our worth, even when we can't see it ourselves. Through Olivia's gentle perseverance and Nathan's courageous willingness to let go of control and embrace vulnerability, we learn that true strength lies not in isolation, but in connection. This narrative reminds us to treasure those who stand by us through trials, helping us heal, grow, and find happiness again. Ethan's journey, especially, highlights the power of hope, how believing in someone can help them overcome even the greatest challenges. Ultimately, this tale emphasizes that family is not always defined by blood, but by the bonds we build through love, kindness, and mutual support. It urges us never to underestimate the impact of opening our hearts, forgiving ourselves for past failures, and allowing others to support and love us in return. After all, embracing second chances can lead us to happiness we never imagined possible. Thank you for joining me on this emotional journey. I'd love to know where you're watching from. Please comment your location below. I read every comment and appreciate your support greatly. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel, Soul Stirring Stories, for more inspiring and heartfelt narratives that remind us all of life's greatest lessons.